Well, now we're going to From the Outside In. That's where each week we have a topic that's on ours or our listeners' minds. And this week, because we're coming up on the Avengers opening, which is coming out May 4th, which is officially the start of the summer blockbuster season now. I mean, really, it used to be June, but now it's May. Eventually, we'll probably start in January at some point. But so we're going to kind of call this the nostalgia episode. Because with summer season lurking, Avengers coming out, because there's so many theaters and movies out now, and there's so many less memories, I guess you could say, we kind of wanted to talk about and share some of our favorite summer blockbuster memories. So, Justin, why don't you start? Mostly because Scott was getting ready to talk, and I felt like cutting him off.
How many do I get to talk about? Because I made a fairly extensive list.
Well, let's not go too crazy. Just throw a couple off, and then let Brian go, and then we'll eventually get to Scott.
Of every summer blockbuster to ever come out, the one that had me the most pumped, even though my feelings about it have changed since then, Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, when it came out May 9th of 1999, was, for me, almost a religious experience to get to see this film in theaters, midnight showing. I could not have been more thrilled. Even after seeing it, I was thrilled. It was only years later, as the bloom fell off the rose a bit, that my feelings changed. But as far as a blockbuster summer film, Star Wars Episode 1 was the film to really get me going. But after I looked through a good list of summer films, the earliest one that I can really remember just being psyched as hell for came out June 1st, 1984. Anybody have a guess what this film is?
Return of the Jedi?
No.
Oh, wait, June 1st, 84 was Temple of Doom?
Empire.
Ghostbusters.
Oh,
bitches.
Ghostbusters.
Fucking Ghostbusters. Oh, the trailers were
83
hysterical.
was Return of the Jedi.
I loved everybody in this film. It looked so funny, looked so good. I could not wait to go to theaters. And I think it actually opened, was it the same weekend as E.T. or around the same time?
Mm-hmm.
I think it was.
E.T. came out in 82. That came out a couple of years earlier.
Do what?
I think E.T. came out a couple of years earlier, I think, didn't it?
I don't know. But Ghostbusters was definitely one of the first movies I can really remember being incredibly psyched for. I was 11 and a half. And comedy, ghosts, Slimer, Stay Puffed. I mean, fuck, every time that the commercial came on for it, I was incredibly psyched. But the last one I'll mention came out June 11th, 1993. Anybody know what this movie is?
93. I don't know.
Jurassic Park.
Oh, good choice.
Those commercials, the T-Rex, the whole premise. I mean, fuck, finally a film that could bring dinosaurs, giant monsters to life on a screen that was believable. Oh, and Steven Spielberg. I could not get into that theater fast enough, and it was an amazing film. And to this day, it still works. This could be put in theaters today. Tell the kids it's never been shown before, and I think they would absolutely believe it. There was a current film. It was an incredible melding of CG, practical effects. You can barely tell the difference. Fantastic summer film.
Didn't we talk about that one last week, but one that we'd like to see in a reboot in 3D in the theater?
Maybe,
yeah.
But it was incredible, and I could not wait to see it. Could not.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So there you go. I've got a lot more, but I'll let you guys talk now.
Go ahead, Brian.
Just to set the record straight here, E.T. was released in June of 82.
That's what I said. 82.
Yep. Okay.
What?
And Ghostbusters was June 7th of 84. Mm-hmm. June 11th, 82 was E.T. June 7th, 84 was Ghostbusters.
Man, I was 3 years old.
Wow. All right, Brian. We're not even going to go to Scott now.
We were almost driving.
God. You have any memories, Brian? And they don't have to be like just the movies. I mean,
yeah. It's mine really wasn't specific movies necessarily. It was more, growing up in the deep South, it gets hotter than fuck in the summertime. And I just remember, I remember going down, to the theater and standing in line like around the building This was well before, there was no ordering tickets online. There was no Fandango. You had to call to find out, what times the movie were going to start,
Grab
that
a
kind
newspaper.
of stuff. And I just, remember standing in line for hours, for one big movie or another. It's hot. And then you go inside and the AC has never felt so good. Mm-hmm. And, you get that big Coke and your popcorn or your Chew Bears, whatever. And, and then it's, you watch your movie and you're blown away by it and you come out pumping your fist because of a Rocky movie or wanting a light cycle because you just came out of Tron or whatever the case is. And then you're instantly blinded by the bright sun that's out there. I don't know. Those are just, I guess, kind of the first things that I really thought of was not necessarily specific movies, but the experience and that you just don't see nowadays. Nobody's standing in line around the back of a movie anymore because the line's so long.
Yeah, I thought of that too.
Only if you do midnight showings, you're going to still get that.
Right.
But even still, you can order, I can order tickets now for the midnight of May 3rd, May 4th, whatever you want to call it.
Of Avengers, yeah.
For the Avengers. I can go ahead and order that now and I can pick them up, the day before. And all I got to do is just walk in.
And I remember hanging out at the mall, and it was wrapped all the way around the mall because it was in the mall then to see Return of the Jedi, and you just had to pray that you got a theater with a seat in it because it was just so crowded. Now you don't have to worry about it. It's some of that fun is gone, just gone.
Yep. Remember balconies?
Yeah,
I remember seeing Return of the Jedi sitting on a balcony.
Scott, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I think we've all talked about the midnight showings, and I think that is like some of my best memories. Is like that was the fun thing to do in the summer, was to go see a movie, because even though you were seeing it way after any of the critics did, you always felt like you were seeing it before everybody else. Mm-hmm. That and the people that you're in the theater with are not there just because they want to see them, let's go see whatever movie's playing this weekend. Those people are there because they want to see that movie. Mm-hmm. And I'm not big on the applause because that doesn't make any sense for me and that, but you can feel the people pumped up for that kind of thing. One of the big ones that I put down was The Dark Knight from 2008. The scene at the very beginning of the movie when the Joker and the pencil, the theater just exploded with shock at that scene. And those are the kind of things that I love about those about summer blockbusters. Is I'm not like antisocial and anti-people and be quiet during my movie as much as most people. Granted, I don't like people talking and stuff, but I like going to comedies and seeing a lot and everybody laughing at the jokes hysterically. I love going to see the holy shit moments and everybody going holy shit at the same time. Those kind of things are cool to me. But some of my better memories, I have two quick ones. The first one, I've mentioned it on previous shows, but as a kid, I wasn't allowed to go to the movies. So anyway, my biological father, who was not wanted nothing to do with that, would occasionally, as they started to get a little bit older, started to take me to see movies. And I remember as a young teenager going to see Men in Black in the theater, and I was just blown away. First off, I hadn't seen too many movies at all, and that one I had so much fun with. He also took, although it's not a blockbuster, he took me to see Starship Troopers in the theater, and that was like a big deal because like they had boobs in it when I was 14 or however long it was.
You really
I hope they weren't gratuitous boobs because apparently you guys hate that shit.
But anyway, I just have one other story, and this it's not a summer blockbuster, but it was a blockbuster. The original Shrek. Granted, whether you love it or you hate the movie, I have a funniest story about this movie. It's so wrong, but it's so funny. I saw this on, I believe it was opening weekend with a girl I was dating at the time, and sitting in the theater, and there's a couple of kids a few rows in front of me, and one of them excused himself out of the row and walked towards the front of the theater. No joke. Took off his trench coat and streaked through the front of the theater, doing cartwheels, yelling, "I love Shrek," before bolting out of the exit door and
That's
where
awesome.
a car was waiting for him. It would be a lot more funny if it weren't a kids movie and there were kids in the theater at the time.
Oh,
But
how old was this kid?
like late teens,
wow.
Probably 16, 17. But I laughed so hard, probably more than I should have. But that's like my funniest blockbuster.
Your funniest
movie.
summer blockbuster memory is a naked guy running in front of you.
How is that not funny?
That's pretty disturbing and funny at the same time.
But it was really funny. I kind of felt bad for the.
I can't believe that was in a kids movie. That's fucked
Yeah,
up.
like of all the movies you're gonna do it, you do it in a kids movie.
Well, if you're trying to get attention,
Yeah, but literally cartwheels,
that's
yelling,
a lot of
"I love Shrek."
yeah. I got that's a lot of things flapping right there.
But that whole midnight showing thing you were talking about, I think that's part of what made that episode 1 so much fun. You know, we all back then, all us Star Wars fans still had hope. You know, we still had some joy.
Was
So
that
everybody
a
in
new
line?
Yeah, what's that?
Everybody in line. So many people had lightsabers, dressed up in costumes, and when you're in when you finally get to sit down, and stormtroopers are walking up and down the aisle, and then it finally goes dark, and that Lucasfilm logo comes up, and the cheers that erupt. 20th Century Fox, and then a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, thunderous applause. I mean, it's stuff like that that to me, I don't care how much of a film nerd you think you are and how much you think you get out of a movie. When you're surrounded by passionate fans, to me, that is what that's what film and entertainment is really all about. Not some asshole in the back row writing out his dissertation on what he thinks of the film, but really just embracing the fun with people who are as passionate as you are. That's where the real blast comes from.
And my turn. One thing I do want to say in terms of midnight shows, because we all have mentioned them, is that, and you're a little younger, Scott, so you probably don't remember this, but your experience at a midnight show, the one that, and now we go to midnight shows for the same experience, that's the experience we had on any weekend when a movie came out when we were kids. Because you didn't have as many theaters, so you had all the people that wanted to see it crammed into one theater, waiting in line, trying to get a ticket. You get in there.
No cuts.
Yeah, no cuts. I mean, you got people fighting for fucking tickets. It's angry sometimes. I mean, it was a midnight show every weekend that something big came out. So the experiences of midnight show, the reason why I love them now, why I love going to midnight shows, is not because I like seeing people dressed up like stormtroopers, because that's kind of creepy sometimes. But it's because that's the experience I got when I was a kid. And it's nice. That's the only way I can relive it, because without any other time, you really can't get it, the same kind of experience. But a couple of the ones that I had was, one of my favorite memories as a kid was going to the drive-in with my mom. Took me to the drive-in for my 7th birthday to see Friday the 13th. My 7th birthday. I guess some people would think that's...
Wow, that explains a lot.
Yeah, it does. Because my birthday was on the 13th. I turned 13 and 30 on Friday the 13th. So, I mean...
I did too.
Hey, look at that. It was really surreal that was my first drive-in that I remember going to. And then to see, something like that, that's kind of an intense movie to see when you're 7 years old. But, God, it was awesome. Another kind of a cool little nostalgia thing is, I remember going when I was a kid to the opening night for Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, because I love Indiana Jones. And I went with my mom and like half my family. And at that time, my mom and dad they were divorced. They ended up getting remarried years later. And then when Crystal Skull came out, I got to go with my mom and my dad and my kids. And that for me was probably, even though the movie ended with an alien shitstorm, it was probably one of the most memorable movie nights I've ever had. Because it was just kind of nostalgic for me.
Almost exact same thing with mine for seeing Phantom Menace. Because, like I said, my parents didn't let me watch movies. And we were old enough by the time that came out that was like the first time that I remember going to the movies with both of my parents and my brother. All 4 of us. We didn't go to the midnight showing, but that was really cool for me because they grew up with Star Wars. They had seen them as a kid. Or not as a kid, but they lived it when it was in the theater. I was obviously before my time, but it was cool for us to kind of come together as a family and see that together, especially for something that we all love so much. So. Oh,
and the last one is I went and took all my kids.
All
my
Damn.
all your bastards.
all my
I hear you there,
bastards.
Sean Kemp.
Both of my kids to all the Harry Potter movies. That's kind of cool that over the course of the years, I've actually watched Harry Potter grow along with my kids, because I took them both when the first one came out to everyone since then. So